Okay, so back in 2008, the federal government decided that October would be National Estate Planning Awareness Month, and specifically the third week in October would be the week that we celebrate Estate Planning Awareness Week. And so I wanted to talk to you a bit about some of the things to think about. Why should you have an estate plan? Um, really, a lot of people use the term peace of mind when they're talking about an estate plan, but I think it goes further than that. Yes, it lets you sleep better at night, but more importantly than that, it creates actual peace, not just peace of mind. If you have a plan laid out for you and your family about how these matters should be handled, it actually creates peace. There are families that could have been broken apart by these kinds of discussions that stay together because of a plan like this. So there are a few things that you should consider. First is, do you need a will or a trust? Here in California, where I practice, most people choose a trust because a will is just a letter to the probate judge saying this is what I want to have happen to my property. It has to go through the probate process. And in California, probate can be a cumbersome process. So most people elect to make a trust here, but that's a discussion that you should have either with your spouse or your loved ones. The people that you're going to be putting in charge of your estate should have some say in that because they're going to be the ones dealing with the fallout. Do you have the right powers of attorney in place? Sometimes people, when they're talking about estate planning, they just think about whether they're alive or dead, and they don't think about the stuff that happens in between. But it's really important to plan for that because often that can be the hardest and most costly part of your estate. Is if you do have some period where you don't have mental capacity, who's going to take care of what? Who's going to take care of your finances? And a power of attorney, I call it a power of attorney, but really I mean more specifically a financial power of attorney is very important for that. Also, a healthcare directive, or some people call it healthcare power of attorney or an advanced healthcare directive. Every time you go into the hospital, they'll ask you if you have one of these. They're very important documents so that there's no arguments about what's supposed to happen to you. Are you kept alive on life support? What are your wishes as far as that goes? And who's going to make the decisions on those things? So that's a really important part to keep in mind. Having enough insurance. You need some liquidity in your estate. So if you have a lot of real property in your estate, you should really consider getting insurance if that's possible for you. Because it's really hard to take over an estate when it's really real property heavy. So having some liquidity like that for final expenses, there are specific life insurance policies that you can purchase for burial. That's a good thing to have as well. You also need to have some kind of list of all of your accounts, of everything you own. So typically I have a spot in my estate planning documents that I give everybody a binder. And I have a spot in that binder for trust assets. And the trust assets section is where you put deeds, and you put maybe one statement from each account, and then you can keep that up to date because it's really hard for a trustee to chase down leads. So I'm actually the trust for a distant family member who passed about a year ago, and we've been chasing down leads on old insurance policies that we find out aren't still in force. So that's something you need to make sure that those kinds of lists are up to date. You can also make a list of beneficiaries, names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, things like that, so it's easy to contact your beneficiaries, but also professionals that you want in charge. So whether that's doctors that you want to be consulted in case of health concerns, or if that's attorneys, your estate planning attorney. if something happens. Things like that. Financial professionals, your financial advisor, you need to make sure that there's a list of all of those. So that's some things to keep in mind about your estate as you're thinking about how you're going to celebrate Estate Planning Awareness Month. So thanks so much for watching.